In today's video, I am going to be breaking down how not to defend Nikola Jokic. He is obviously one of the best passers in the NBA, especially as a center. So if you are guarding somebody who is playing just like Nikola Jokic, this is definitely a video for you. Also, if you want to get burned less on defense, this is also a video for you. Okay, so what do we see with Nikola Jokic when he gets that ball in that high or even low post? What is he looking at, and how is he able to get passes like this through to his teammates? Well, in this first clip, we have the entry pass into the high post. When he gets that ball, he is looking and scanning the court. We can see that right there. He is now scanning what this defender is doing, what his man is doing, but also this guy right here has to be also paying attention to what his defender is doing. And it all comes down to what the head and eyes of that defender are doing. So basically, after he makes that entry pass, he starts cutting towards the basket. When he gets position and this defender is looking at that ball, that is when Nikola Jokic passes that ball ahead to get that pass through. This cutting player gets ahead, shoulders ahead of the shoulders of the defender, while the defender is looking at the ball. If you can do that, and if you are a passer or the player in the high post too is making those passes, that's something to look for. We see this again with Steph Curry. He makes a quick glance towards that left side. That is, as soon as that happens, that offensive player cuts to the rim quicker, gets that lead pass sent to him, and of course Jokic gets another assist. We can put this a little bit slower where we can see the time where Curry takes that quick look away and even plants his feet. And as soon as that happens, that offensive player recognizes that, and he's able to cut through and get that pass. The same thing happens here where Nikola Jokic gets that ball passed to him, and then this defender decides, hey, I'm just going to kind of shadow Nikola Jokic and not double team him, but still make it look like I was going to go for the ball, and again, that player gets burned. There was a bad rotation as well. This man went down to try to cover that drive where it should have been Cade Cunningham instead. That is another reason why that worked so well. What should have happened is Cade Cunningham should have been the one who was popping up, and this player should have been sinking down, but that didn't happen. We see this yet again with the Toronto Raptors, where Nikola Jokic gets that ball in the high post. The offensive player cuts, gets his shoulders ahead of the defender's shoulders. At least we had a good rotation, but it was a late rotation from the baseline defender, which then led to an easy layup. Also, if a team double teams you in the low or high post, that's what we have here. If you are a player whose man just dropped off the double team, you need to cut to the basket, especially if the defense is not really paying attention on the weak side, which then can get you some open, easy baskets. It seems like the Denver offense all predicates around getting Nikola Jokic in the low post and then having players cut from the weak side or even strong side and getting ahead of their defenders so that they can get those passes through. And how Nikola Jokic really does get these passes through is quite simple, to be honest with you. He just gets it ahead of that player, and that's how you're supposed to pass anyways. And because this player gets position by cutting to the basket hard, you can't be cutting to the basket weak. That's going to allow them to get a ton of baskets. Now this is just an absolutely amazing play. We have a high post screen for Nikola Jokic who was at the point. After he gets that screen, it's a screen the screener where he sets that secondary screen for the ball handler, and then this guy's supposed to come up and set the staggered screen. After that happens, instead this player popped out to receive that pass, and we're having a back screen for Jokic. We are seeing this already broken down in this video. When this happens, we have the swing pass and then a pass into Nikola Jokic in that low post. The reason why this is so important is because he's able to get position on this player super easily. How he was able to get position on this player is what looks to be Blake Griffin tried to deny the pass into him, in which case Nikola Jokic, what he was able to do is to do a quick swim move, get his right arm over top of that defender, which then locks out that player on the far side away from the basket. Now, because Nikola Jokic is such a bigger player, he can get that position on him and receive that pass. This draws up a help defender because Blake Griffin was out of position, and Nikola Jokic was able to get that pass through to his teammate for the easy basket. Now, how you can use a dribble handoff as we see here is fantastic. So here we have a player who is about to use that dribble handoff. The defender came a bit too high, and now that player who was going to use that DHO decided to cut back door because now that defender is kind of jamming that from happening. And we can see that happen right here where he steps out to jam it, or at least slightly jam it. That player cuts back door. Jokic is able to get him that bounce pass and basically leads him right to the basket for an open dunk. This is how you use a dribble handoff. There's 3 ways of using it, and that is one of them. And we see this once again where that defender is trying to jam that DHO, and instead Jokic has a smart teammate who's able to cut back door and again get his shoulders ahead of that defender for the easy basket. It's all about getting your shoulders, as we can see here, ahead of that defender. If you are a player who can pass very accurately, then you can get that pass into that player who's cutting, and of course, get him easy baskets. We can see this again here where Nikola Jokic gets that ball into the post, but here, instead of getting a pass through, he scores. And how he's able to do that is when he gets this ball, he's scanning the court to see if there's any players who are coming down to double team him. He doesn't see that happen, so he rolls, he gets his shoulder in front of the defender's shoulder. He's able to lock out with his off arm, and when he does that, he's able to get to the other side of the basket, use his off arm to protect against the block. He's also using the rim to protect against the block, and because of that, he's able to get that reverse. This was all started because of that inside foot spin move, which then allowed him to seal the defensive player with his shoulder and off arm. 100% you can do this. It's a super simple move to do. We see this a lot. And remember, if you've got a shorter player on you and you are a taller player like Nikola Jokic, you can even allow yourself to spin, get your elbow into the shoulder of that defender, which then seals him, and there's nothing that player is going to be able to do to try to stop you. And if you are the defender in this case, you really want to try and defend that side. You do not want him to go baseline or any taller player to go baseline, because when that happens, you've got no real help side defense that are options. At least if you allow him to roll towards the middle, you can get a help side defender to try and double team that post player. So you do not want to guard a taller player either behind him or trying to shade the middle. You want to shade the baseline to force him towards the middle, or else this will happen to you. And so many players will try to shade him towards the baseline. He's just going to do this all day with those players, and it's such an easy move to be able to use. He then spins here. He uses his off elbow to be able to seal that player back, and again, nothing that player can do. You want to be able to force him towards the middle. At least he would have had somebody there to stop that player. So that's essentially some ways that you can defend a player like Nikola Jokic. Hopefully that knowing these mistakes will allow you to be a better defender as well. Always try to stay between your man and the basket. Do not let him get position on you. Do not let his shoulders get in front of yours, because if there's players who can pass like Jokic, that player is going to be feasting all day long. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.